I never thought my life would change with one phone call. I was broke, tired, and still sketching portraits in a cramped city apartment with paint stains on the floorboards. And then a lawyer told me that a man I barely knew had left me $2.5 million. And a mansion. My experience inside that mansion and what followed nearly destroyed me. Stay with me. You're going to want to hear this. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment where you are watching from. It was a Wednesday afternoon, the kind where the sky feels like it's pressing down on you. My phone buzzed, an unknown number flashing across the screen. Normally I'd let it ring out, bill collectors, spam, the usual. But something in me said, pick up. Is this Clara Matthews? A crisp voice asked. Yes. This is Samuel Price, from Price & Associates Law. I'm calling regarding the estate of Mr. Henry Whitmore. I believe you were his niece. I nearly dropped the phone. Henry Whitmore. The name was faint like an echo from childhood. A great uncle I had met maybe twice at family gatherings before my parents vanished from my life. Yes, I think so. Why? His tone was calm, rehearsed. Mr. Whitmore passed away last month. You've been named the sole beneficiary of his estate. It includes assets, a financial sum of approximately $2.5 million, and the Whitmore mansion. I laughed because what else do you do when a stranger tells you your whole life just changed? There has to be some mistake. I barely knew the man. There's no mistake, he said firmly. You'll need to come by the office to sign papers. And there's one detail you should know. The will explicitly excludes your parents. My heart twisted at that word, parents. People I hadn't seen since they dumped me in foster care at 10 years old. And now, even from the grave, my uncle had cut them off. But why leave everything to me? 2 days later, I found myself standing in front of the Whitmore mansion. It loomed over me like something out of a Gothic novel. Tall iron gates, ivy strangling the stone walls, windows so dark they looked like watching eyes. The air was colder here, heavy with salt from the nearby sea. I gripped the key the lawyer had handed me. It was old-fashioned, heavy, the kind you'd expect to see in a museum. When the door creaked open, dust didn't greet me the way I expected. No, everything was immaculate. Rugs vacuumed, chandeliers gleaming, fresh flowers in a vase on the entry table. That uneasy thought lodged itself in my chest. Someone has been here. Recently. I walked through grand hallways lined with portraits of people I barely recognized. Ancestors, I guessed. Every pair of painted eyes seemed to follow me as I explored. The mansion smelled faintly of sandalwood and paper. My footsteps echoed too loud. I whispered to myself, this doesn't feel like a place that's been abandoned. Later, back at the office, Samuel Price adjusted his glasses and slid the papers toward me. Mr. Whitmore was very clear, he explained. He disinherited your parents decades ago. They had conflicts. He saw you as different. Someone worth protecting. He frowned. Protecting me from what? He hesitated. That wasn't written. But he took care to keep this estate in your name and yours alone. I signed the documents, my hands trembling. On paper I was now wealthy. But I didn't feel rich. I felt like I'd just inherited a mystery. Back at the mansion, I wandered into a room that looked like it belonged in an old detective film. The study. Mahogany shelves, leather-bound books, a massive oak desk. On the desk lay a stack of papers tied with string. My curiosity got the better of me. They were notes. My uncle's handwriting. Some were letters, others scraps. The words chilled me. She must never fall into their hands. Keep the trust sealed. Her parents cannot be allowed near her. Clara is innocent. She deserves a life they could never give her. I sat there, gripping the papers so tightly my knuckles went white. My parents. What had they done that was so unforgivable? I thought I'd left those questions behind years ago, but now the past was crawling back through the cracks. It was late when I decided to explore the upstairs bedrooms. The air felt heavier up there, like secrets had soaked into the wallpaper. I opened a drawer in one of the dressers, expecting mothballs or forgotten clothes. Instead, I froze. Inside were photographs. Not of my uncle. Not of the house. Of me. Recent ones. Me leaving my apartment last month. Me sketching at the park. Me carrying groceries down my street. Dozens of them, each one tucked carefully in neat stacks. My stomach lurched. My chest went cold. I whispered to the empty room. Who took these? Someone had been watching me. For years, maybe. Tracking me. And somehow those pictures ended up here, in a house I'd never lived in, left behind by a man who swore he was protecting me. I stumbled back, clutching the drawer for balance, my mind racing. Was it my uncle? Did he watch me all this time from the shadows, making sure I was safe? Or was it them? My parents? A sound echoed through the mansion. Floorboards creaking, deliberate, heavy. I wasn't alone. And that's when I realized. Inheriting this fortune wasn't the blessing I thought it was. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous. When you inherit a mansion and millions of dollars, you should expect strangers to come crawling out of the woodwork. Scammers, con artists, maybe distant relatives you've never met. What I didn't expect was my parents. The same people who left me when I was 10 years old. The same people I swore I'd never see again. It happened on a rainy evening, just 3 days after I moved into the mansion. I was unpacking boxes in the grand hall when the doorbell rang. The sound echoed through the house like a warning. When I opened the door, my heart stopped. There they were. My mother, her hair streaked with gray but her eyes still sharp, and my father, older, heavier, but with that same unsettling grin I remembered from childhood. "Clara!" my mother cried, arms wide, as if 16 years of silence meant nothing. "Oh, baby, look at you." Froze. My throat closed. The memories slammed into me. Being left at the foster agency, their faces hard and cold as they walked away. I was a child begging them not to go. And now? They were on my doorstep, acting like family again. "What are you doing here?" I managed, gripping the doorframe like it was the only thing keeping me upright. My father chuckled, stepping forward. "We heard the news. Your uncle's estate, the inheritance. Clara, we're so proud of you. We thought it was time to make things right." They didn't ask if they could come in. They just walked past me, dripping umbrellas and muddy shoes across polished marble. The mansion swallowed their voices as they marveled at the ceilings, the paintings, the sheer size of the place. "Can you believe this is yours?" my mother said, trailing her fingers along the banister. "It's like it was meant for us, I mean for you." "Was." She said it so casually, as if this house somehow belonged to all of us. They brought gifts. Cheap wine, a box of chocolates, wilted flowers. They acted like they'd been planning this reunion for years. They sat at the dining table, eating my food, laughing, telling stories about how hard life had been. My father claimed he'd worked odd jobs across the country, barely scraping by. My mother painted herself as a victim of circumstance, blaming bad luck and bad people for why they never came back for me. I wanted to believe them. I wanted to believe they regretted leaving me behind. Because what child doesn't still crave their parents' love, no matter how broken? But something didn't add up. As the days passed, they stayed. They didn't even ask. Their clothes appeared in the guest rooms. Their voices filled the halls. But their stories didn't match. My mother said they'd lived in Florida for years. My father claimed Texas. She swore they'd sent letters that I must never have received. He said they couldn't find me. I listened, but the anger bubbled underneath. Did they think I'd just forget the truth? The years of silence. The birthdays spent alone. The hunger, the loneliness. Sometimes I'd catch them whispering in the hallways when they thought I couldn't hear. Their tones sharp, urgent. Once I overheard my father hiss. "We need to be patient. She'll come around." Come around to what? One afternoon, I was outside trimming roses when Mrs. Alder, the elderly neighbor from down the road, stopped by. Her eyes widened when she saw my parents' car in the driveway. "They're back," she whispered, clutching her shawl tighter. You know them? Asked. She looked me dead in the eye. Child, those two left nothing but trouble behind. They bled this family dry, tried to trick your uncle out of his fortune years ago. When he finally cut them off, they vanished. You be careful, Clara. They'll ruin you too if you let them. Her words hit me harder than I wanted to admit. Because deep down I already knew she was right. That night, unable to sleep, I wandered through the mansion with a flashlight. Something about this house whispered secrets. In the gallery, I stopped in front of an old portrait of my uncle. His stern eyes seemed to bore into mine. On a whim I tugged at the frame. Shifted. Behind it, taped to the wall, was an envelope yellowed with age. My name was scrawled across it in bold letters. Clara. My hand shook as I opened it. The letter was short, terrifyingly clear. If you are reading this, then I am gone. Clara, your parents will return for what they think belongs to them. Do not let them in. They are dangerous. Everything I've done was to protect you. Trust no one, especially them. My vision blurred. My uncle had known. He'd predicted this. And I, like a fool, had already let them in. The next morning my mother was in the kitchen, humming as she made coffee. She turned to me with a too sweet smile. Darling, your father and I were talking. Managing a place like this is a lot of work for one person. Don't you think it would be easier if we shared the responsibility? Maybe even made the house ours again, like it was meant to be. Ours again. As if it had ever been theirs. I stared at her, the letter burning in my pocket. My uncle's warning echoed in my head. Why now? I asked flatly. Why come back now, after 16 years? Why didn't you come for me before? Her smile faltered. For a moment I saw it, the mask slipped. A flash of irritation, maybe even rage, before she quickly recovered. Life was complicated, she said softly, eyes darting away. But we're here now. That's what matters, right? Of course the mansion and the money matter to you now. Not me. Why wait for this long? Asked. That night I locked my bedroom door for the first time. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding. Down the hall I heard them whispering again. This time I pressed my ear to the door. We need her to sign something, my father muttered. She's not ready, my mother replied sharply. We can't scare her off yet. My blood ran cold. What did they want me to sign? I backed away from the door, clutching my uncle's letter. My parents weren't here to rebuild a family. They were here for the fortune, for the mansion. And if I didn't play along, I had no idea how far they'd go to take it. I never thought the word family could sound like a threat. But that's what it had become in this house, my house. Life became uneasy as I realized I made a grave mistake allowing them in. They played the part of doting parents so well. Forced laughter echoing through the mansion's tall halls. Warm words about how they regretted everything, and how blood is thicker than water. But beneath the surface, something darker stirred. Clara, my father said that evening, sliding a stack of papers across the polished dining table. This mansion, it's too much for you to handle alone. We could help. Just sign here, make us co-owners. For protection. For family. I stared at the papers. Their edges looked sharp like blades. My mother leaned forward, eyes gleaming with rehearsed sincerity. Sweetheart, we only want what's best for you. We're young. You don't understand the responsibility of wealth. Let us guide you. We're your parents. For a moment that word, parents, gnawed at me. It was the word I'd spent years aching for. The word I used to whisper to myself in strange beds across different foster homes, wishing someone would claim me. But now, felt like a trap. I pushed the papers back toward them. My voice was firm, but inside I was shaking. No, this is mine. Uncle Henry wanted me to have it. Not you. Their smiles cracked, as if painted too thin. My father's jaw tightened. My mother's eyes glinted with something colder than hurt, something closer to rage. Ungrateful, my father spat softly, though his voice carried through the dining room. After everything we've done for you. I almost laughed. Done for me. They'd abandoned me. But instead of laughing, I stayed silent. Silence, I was learning, is sometimes louder than shouting. That's when the accidents began. The night after, I woke to the smell of smoke. The kitchen curtains were smoldering. An old candle tipped onto the counter. My father swore it was an accident. Another evening, I took a sip of wine my mother poured for me, and gagged. The taste was sharp, bitter, chemical. She gasped, swearing she must have grabbed the wrong bottle. But the look in her eyes told me it wasn't a mistake. And then my studio, the one place in this mansion that felt like mine, was destroyed. Paintings slashed, brushes snapped, canvases overturned. My art, the only thing I had control over, was ripped apart. My parents claimed ignorance, feigned shock. But the truth hung between us like the thick cobwebs in the attic. They were trying to push me out. Or worse. Each night I locked my bedroom door. Each night I lay awake, listening to footsteps in the hall. Sometimes they paused outside my room, lingering before retreating. I'd clutch the sealed letter I'd found from Uncle Henry, reading his warning again and again. Your parents will return for what they think belongs to them. Do not let them in, they are dangerous. He had known. He had always known. I was so naive. I already let them in. It came one afternoon while I was sorting through boxes in the study. Hidden beneath stacks of old correspondence, I found a thin folder sealed in faded red wax. My uncle's handwriting scrawled across the top. For Clara, if she seeks the truth. My hands trembled as I broke the seal. Inside were court documents. Yellowed, fragile but damning. Years ago, my parents had tried to take everything from him. They'd filed petitions, claiming Uncle Henry was mentally unfit to manage his estate. They'd hired witnesses, falsified reports, done everything in their power to strip him of control over his fortune. But they failed. The court dismissed them, and Henry disowned them completely. My throat tightened as I read the final line, scribbled in my uncle's own hand. I leave everything to Clara, not just as love but as justice. Let this inheritance be my revenge. I sat there staring at those words. My chest felt heavy, like the air itself had thickened. So it wasn't kindness. It wasn't because he believed in me or even loved me. It was vengeance. One final strike against his enemies, using me as the blade. My parents weren't here for reconciliation. They weren't here for love. They were here to finish what they'd started decades ago. That night I confronted them. I walked into the living room where they sat, sipping wine as if they already owned the place. The firelight cast their shadows long and grotesque against the wall. I know, I said, holding up the folder. My voice didn't shake this time. I know what you did to Uncle Henry. I know why he left everything to me. For a second, silence. Then my father laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. You think you're special, he sneered. You were a pawn, Clara. That's all you've ever been. He used you to hurt us. And you're too foolish to see it. My mother set her glass down gently, almost tenderly. But her eyes, those eyes that once looked at me with feigned warmth, were sharp as knives. You can fight us, Clara, she said softly. But you can't survive us. Her words sent ice down my spine. The fire crackled. Somewhere in the house, a floorboard groaned, as if the mansion itself was warning me. I tightened my grip on the folder, my knuckles white. I didn't know what I was more afraid of, the fact that they wanted to destroy me, or the fact that some part of me still wanted them to love me. That night, as I lay awake with my door locked and the folder hidden beneath my pillow, I made myself a promise. I would not let them win. But even as I whispered it to myself, I heard something. Creak. Slow, deliberate creak. And then, the click of my doorknob turning. The sound of the doorknob twisting felt louder than thunder in the silence of my room. My body froze, every nerve sparking in alarm. I had locked it. I knew I had locked it. Yet, the knob turned again, slow, deliberate. Testing. I shot up from bed, clutching the folder to my chest. My uncle's words echoed in my head. They will return for what they think belongs to them. Do not let them in. Panic clawed at my throat. I grabbed the heavy lamp from my nightstand, holding it like a weapon. The knob stopped. Silence. And then footsteps, moving away. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I sat upright, clutching that lamp, staring at the door until the first rays of morning crept through the curtains. By daylight, everything felt like a bad dream. My parents acted as if nothing had happened. My mother hummed in the kitchen, flipping pancakes. My father read the newspaper in the sunroom. But their act was wearing thin, and I could see it, the cracks in the mask. The glances they exchanged when they thought I wasn't looking. The way my mother's smile never reached her eyes anymore. They wanted me gone. And I knew it was only a matter of time before they stopped pretending. That evening, I decided to search the house again. I needed answers. Something more than just court papers and my uncle's warnings. If he had left me this mansion as his final strike, then maybe he left me something else too. I started in the library. The scent of old books and dust filled the air as I pulled volume after volume from the shelves, checking for hidden compartments. Hours passed. Nothing. But then, behind a row of thick leather-bound ledgers, I felt it. A small latch, cold metal beneath my fingertips. I pulled, and the shelf shifted, groaning open to reveal a narrow passage. Hidden room. My heart pounded as I stepped inside. The room was cramped, filled with boxes and files stacked to the ceiling. And in the center a desk. On it, a single locked journal with my name scrawled across the cover. Clara. I broke the lock with shaking hands. Inside were letters. Letters Henry had written but never sent. Page after page, he explained everything. How my parents had bled him dry, how they tried to have him declared insane, how they threatened him when he refused. And finally, how he realized that I, the child they abandoned, was the only one left untouched by their greed. I chose you, Clara, one letter read. Not as a weapon, not as revenge, but because you deserved better than them. You deserve freedom. Tears blurred my vision. For the first time since his death, I didn't feel like just a pawn. Felt chosen. But the moment was shattered by a voice. Well, spun. My father stood in the doorway, his figure filling the narrow entrance. My mother stepped in behind him, her smile sharp and satisfied. So, my mother purred. You found it. My blood turned cold. You knew about this room. Of course we did, my father said, stepping closer. His eyes locked on the journal in my hands. Henry was always paranoid, always hiding things. But we knew he kept records. Proof. That's why we need it, Clara. That's why you need us. I clutched the journal tighter. This is mine. Just like the house. Just like the money. Uncle Henry wanted me to have it. Not you. Their faces hardened. The final mask fell away. Do you really think you can survive without us? My father hissed. You're naive. Weak. Alone. You wouldn't last a day once people come for you. My mother's voice was softer, but crueler. Sweetheart, don't make this harder than it has to be. Give us the journal. Sign the house over. No one has to get hurt. For the first time I felt something shift inside me. Not fear, not doubt, but resolve. No, I said. My voice was steady, strong. You can't scare me anymore. The air crackled with tension. My father's face twisted with rage. He lunged, ran. Through the narrow passage, out into the library. Journal clutched to my chest. My feet pounded against the polished floors as their footsteps thundered behind me. Clara! My mother screamed. Stop! But I didn't. I tore through the mansion, down the grand staircase, into the main hall. My heart hammered like a war drum. My lungs burned. And then, I remembered something. The study. Phone. I sprinted toward it, slamming the door behind me and locking it just as my father crashed against the wood. Clara! He roared, pounding on the door. I grabbed the phone, dialing with shaking fingers. The line rang once, twice. And then it went dead. The cord had been cut. I dropped the receiver, my breath coming in sharp gasps. I was trapped. The pounding on the door grew louder. Wood splintered. I backed away, clutching the journal, until my legs hit the desk. And that's when I saw it. An envelope taped underneath the drawer, yellowed and brittle with age. I ripped it open. Inside was a single key and a note in Henry's handwriting. If they come for you, the truth will protect you. Basement. East wall. The door shuddered. My father's voice was hoarse with fury. You can't hide from us forever, Clara. Clutched the key. My only chance. But to reach the basement, I'd have to get past them. The door cracked. Splinters flew. And I realized I had one move left. I took a deep breath, tightened my grip on the journal, and whispered to myself, "This ends tonight." The pounding at the door rattled the walls, each strike like a cannon blast. I could hear the fury in my father's voice, the venom in my mother's cries. But all I could think about was the key clutched in my hand. And the note. Basement. East wall. My uncle had planned for this. He knew this day would come. The door cracked under another hit. Splinters scattered across the study floor. I knew I had seconds before they broke through. Adrenaline surged through me. I darted to the window, yanked it open, and hurled myself out into the night. The cold air slapped me awake as I landed hard on the damp grass. Pain shot through my legs, but I forced myself up, clutching the journal and the key. Behind me, glass shattered, their voices shrieking as they climbed after me. Ran. The mansion loomed around me like a sleeping giant, its dark windows watching in silence. My lungs burned, my heart hammered, but I didn't stop until I reached the basement doors tucked behind the east wing. The key slid into the lock. It turned with a click that echoed like thunder. I pulled the heavy doors open and slipped inside just as footsteps pounded the corner of the house. I yanked them shut, plunging into darkness. The basement smelled of dust, stone, and secrets. My flashlight beam cut through the shadows as I stumbled down the stairs, following the east wall like the note had said. And then I saw it. A section of the wall that wasn't stone at all, but wood. Carefully paneled, painted to blend in. False wall. My hands shook as I slid the key into the lock hidden at its base. It clicked, and the wall swung inward. What lay inside took my breath away. Stacks of boxes filled with files, photographs, and ledgers. Evidence. My uncle had documented everything. My parents' fraud, their debts, their schemes. Letters from creditors, signed contracts. Even photographs of meetings with shady figures. And there, on a pedestal sealed in glass, was a final letter, addressed to me. I broke the seal and unfolded the paper. My uncle's handwriting stared back at me. "Clara, if you are reading this, it means the truth has come to light. Your parents cannot escape what they've done. These records will protect you. Deliver them to the authorities. And remember, you were always meant for more than their shadows." My throat tightened. Tears blurred my eyes. He hadn't just left me the house. He had left me a way to fight back. But before I could take another breath, the sound of footsteps echoed down the stairs. They had found me. My father's voice cut through the dark. "Clara, be a good girl. Hand it over." I turned, clutching the files to my chest. My flashlight illuminated their faces as they emerged from the shadows. Their smiles were gone, just raw desperation now. "You think the police will believe you?" my mother sneered. "We're your parents. You're nothing without us." But I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of them. Not of their lies. "I'm done being your pawn," I said. My voice was steady, strong. "Uncle Henry left me the truth. And the truth will bury you." I turned and ran deeper into the basement, weaving between crates. My father roared and gave chase, his footsteps thunderous. My mother's shrill voice echoed behind us. "Don't let her out." I reached a side stairwell that led up to the kitchen. As I pushed through the door, my father lunged, grabbing my arm. His grip was iron. "You ungrateful brat," he spat. His face twisted in rage, veins bulging in his neck. "Everything you have is because of us." No, I hissed, shoving the flashlight into his face. Everything I have is in spite of you. He screamed, stumbling back, clutching his eyes. I bolted up the stairs, slamming the door behind me and jamming a chair under the handle. The night blurred into chaos after that. I grabbed my phone from my room, thank God for a backup charger, and snapped photos of every document, every letter, every piece of evidence. Then I called the police. When they arrived, my parents tried to spin their lies. They wept, pleaded, played the role of the loving parents with a troubled daughter. But the weight of Henry's evidence crushed their performance. The files exposed everything. Fraud, forgery, years of financial crimes. Even the attempted declaration of Henry's insanity. The officers didn't hesitate. They led my parents away in handcuffs, their faces pale, their mouths spitting curses at me. My mother's final words before they shoved her into the patrol car still ring in my ears. "You'll regret this, Clara. You'll regret being alone." But as the cars disappeared down the long driveway, I didn't feel regret. Felt free. Weeks later, the mansion felt different. Lighter. The shadows had receded. For the first time it felt like mine. Not a battleground, not a prison, but a home. The journal and the files were secured with the authorities. My parents faced trial, their empire of lies collapsing around them. And I, finally, was no longer the abandoned child left behind. I was the survivor. Sometimes late at night, I wander into the library and stand before the hidden passage. I think of my uncle, of the battles he fought alone, and of the legacy he left me. Not just money, not just a house, but the truth, the courage to fight back, the power to choose my own future. And as I close my eyes in those moments, I hear his voice again. "You deserve freedom." And now, at last, I have it. I knew freedom didn't mean safety. Not yet. My parents had left scars, and shadows still lingered in every hallway of the mansion. But instead of running from it, I chose to build a new kind of strength. First, I changed the locks. Every single door and window. Replaced, reinforced. I hired a security company, installed cameras and alarms. No more creaks in the night without me knowing the cause. Then, I began to fill the silence. The mansion had been too big, too hollow, too much like a tomb of secrets. So I started small. I restored the gardens my uncle once tended. I furnished the empty rooms with colors and warmth. Slowly, brick by brick, memory by memory, I made it feel alive again. But the most important thing, I rebuilt myself. I got a lawyer who helped me protect the estate legally. I reached out to people my uncle had trusted, old friends, his attorney, even the staff who once worked here. They became my circle of support. I wasn't as alone as my mother had hissed at me that night. I began painting again in my studio, the same one they had ransacked. This time, though, my brushstrokes weren't desperate attempts to escape. They were bold, free. A declaration that the mansion, the fortune, the life, they were mine now. And sometimes, when I sit by the fire in the grand hall, I don't hear whispers of betrayal anymore. I hear something else. Quieter voice. My uncle's. "You deserve freedom." And I know I finally built it. What do you think of Clara's story? Share your thoughts in the comment section.